everyone. Welcome to a special edition, a bi-week edition of the West Tigers podcast, episode number 332. We had the bye this week, so instead of all the boys getting on here, we thought we'd ask a few fans to come on and join us on a podcast tonight. So all the other boys are taking a night off tonight. They started their long weekend this weekend, I guess, and they're not doing anything West Tigers related. But we've got some replacements on tonight. We have Nick, Jordan and Rachel who have joined us tonight to have a little bit of a talk about the season so far. I'm going to get them to tell us a little bit first how they became West Tigers fan, and then we'll get into a bit of a season review. I'll start with you, Rachel. How did you become a West Tigers fan?
I came from the Balmain side of the joint venture originally. It's just my family's club. My dad, my grandparents, my aunties, my uncles all supported the Tigers. Laurie Nichols is a Cooma boy. And being from Cooma, Laurie Nichols was part of our family friends and everything like that. So, yeah, for many, many decades now, our family's just been Tiger supporters.
And you're telling me before you went to air, I know we had you on the supporters bus edition of the podcast we did.
Yep.
And you mentioned then that you really wanted Steve's position on the pod, and you're viewing tonight as your trial to take his spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gunning for the top spot.
Top spot. Well, you're not going for Steve's spot then. I'll go on to Jordan. Jordan was on last year when we did the petition podcast that we did, where we got some fans on to discuss about why they thought the club needed changes. So this isn't Jordan's first time on the pod, but do you want to give us a brief summary, mate, of how you became a West Tigers supporter?
Yeah, sure. If it was based on the first game I ever attended, I should either be a Bears or a Sharks fan. I actually attended a game in 1996. I was about 5 years old, Sharks v Bears. Different side. I have no real affiliation to Balmain or Wests. It was more of a case that my pop lived in the Campbelltown area and took me to the first game back in 2000. And my fandom of the West Tigers comes down to good old Johnny Skandalis, because at the end of the game, he took me into the sheds and I got to meet a lot of the players and a lot of the boys just after striking up a conversation. And from that day forward, I have always been a West Tigers fan.
Is that why you try and sneak in after every game? Went to your first game and that was just the expectation, mate, that you get to go into the sheds?
100%. Trust me. The following year, vowed to Terry Hill, but I snuck in with the ball boys the following year, and suffice to say, I saw more of Terry Hill than someone that age ever should.
And finally, we're also joined by Nick. How did you become a West Tigers fan, mate?
Well, firstly, Gary, it's a real pleasure to meet you, and it's nice to meet the megastar of the West Tigers podcast.
Steve's not here.
Steve's not here, but the main man's here, so it's as I said, it's a pleasure. But if I go way back, so I'm 47 years old. I'm not afraid to mention my age, but as a very young fella, it's funny because I just remember watching rugby league on TV, and my favourite animal was a tiger. So I guess if I was going to be drawn one way, it was the Tigers. But also, just on some background, so my mum's uncle played for Balmain in the mid to late 50s, Ron Warnes. So he was a fullback and actually played during Barnsley's era. So when I think it was 57, my uncle Ron actually played about 7 games while Golden Boots was out with an injury, and I think he scored a try and kicked a few goals too. So pretty proud to have some Tigers heritage in the family.
Thanks, guys. We'll get right into the swing of the podcast now, and we'll go with the podcast favorite of one word. And usually we have one word to describe a game or the events of the week. So this week, one word. What is it like to be a West Tigers fan during a bye round? Thanks, Jordan.
Bored. Yeah,
that's pretty much me as well. I hang for football. I hang for West Tigers games, even when we're going poorly. So I know Eddie especially is very pleased to have a week off from what he calls the pain of being a West Tigers fan. But I'm the same. I get bored not watching them play. Rachel.
I thought about bored as well, but I also thought it was needed for us fans to have a bit of a mental break from the season that has been so far. But also it's been needed for the boys. I think they need to have that time off as well. So I went with bored and needed, so I had 2 words.
Well, we'll probably get to that time off in a moment because there's been a bit of a topic of conversation around the time off. Nick, your one word for your bye weekend as a West Tigers fan.
So I'm probably leaning along Eddie's line of thought. I'm extremely relaxed this weekend. It's just nice to have a stress-free weekend where I don't have to put up with the anxiety of going through 80 minutes of hoping, but not really expecting a great outcome. So it's been a nice, relaxing weekend.
Now, Rachel mentioned it a moment ago. It was nice for the guys to get a weekend off, Nick. There was a lot of news in the papers last week about Benji Marshall flying off to Fiji for a holiday. What's your thoughts on him taking time away from the club at this point of the season?
I think it's fantastic. Like, honestly, we've had 8 straight losses. The whole. I think when you get in that downward spiral of 8 losses in a row, you just need to get away from it. I think the bye came at a perfect opportunity. So, I've got no issues if Benji wants to hop over the water to Fiji. Like he came out and said, in that article I think I read this morning, whether it's New Zealand or Sydney, wherever he goes with his family, I think it's just a good opportunity for everyone to reset and hopefully come back a little bit fresher and rip in with the Dragons next week.
Now, the thing I saw, Jordan, all week about it was, would you see Wayne Bennett doing this or would you see Craig Bellamy doing this? Craig Bellamy goes up to Queensland to visit his grandkids during the bye weekend. So I don't think it's that unusual for a coach to take a break at this time of year.
No, it's not. And this is the thing. Like there's a couple of particular journalists who have an obsession with finding a story at the moment to, I don't know, clicks, whatever, they're bored, or they just haven't written something negative about us for some time, which, in some reporters' cases is 12 hours. But the thing that I actually enjoyed about it, Michael Chammas in particular, actually on the Triple M podcast mentioned the fact that after he did some research, like he actually did his job as a journalist, he actually found it wasn't that uncommon. So he didn't really run with the story that he was going to. And then you had the likes of Wayne Bennett, Adam O'Brien, Craig Bellamy, others who have come out and gone, well, I do the same thing. So I don't understand why there has been such a target placed on Benji specifically for going to Fiji. If I have no doubt, if we weren't looking at 8 straight game losses, we wouldn't even be talking about this.
And it was strange, Rachel. Not only was Benji thrown into this, our CEO's on a work trip to the UK at the moment, looking at offloading some players, and that was brought into it as well.
Yeah, I have no problem with Richo going overseas. He's on a business trip, so I don't know why that was an issue brought up by the media. He's looking to offload players, and the best way to do that is probably going over to England and sussing out what's happening over there. So I don't know why the media are also into Richo about it.
And interesting, like the wheels may be starting to turn on that potential player cleanout that was given as the reason for Shane Richardson to head overseas. There was reports this afternoon, Jordan, that we're looking at Jake Simpkin leaving the club, possibly even this week. Your thoughts on that?
At first I was like, oh, okay, I didn't really, I wasn't too fazed by it. But actually, the more I thought about it, it sort of kind of didn't make sense with the fact that half the year's gone, we've paid a majority of his salary, and he is off contract already. The only reason we could be doing this is to create a roster spot because we have someone maybe more immediate or someone we want to promote. We do have 1 spot for this year free already, and that'll make 2 if he does go immediately. So I feel I don't feel that this is for no reason. I actually feel there's probably a purpose behind it, because why would we let a backup hooker go when we've already paid most of his salary and he doesn't have a contract for next year? So we're not going to free up anything different for 25.
Yeah, I do agree. I think it has to be a roster spot. Nick?
I'm just wondering if Simpkin goes to Manly, could it be a swap with Luke Brooks?
Seriously, don't. You'll upset Declan, and he will just join this conversation out of nowhere, and you'll have him offside. Ask Steve how much he gets from Declan about Luke Brooks. Don't poke that bear.
Okay.
But there were reports, Nick, that he's on a $400,000 a season contract as well, which I found interesting coming out of that. That seems a little high to me.
That's exactly what I thought when I read it on Twitter or X this afternoon. I couldn't believe he's on 400. I mean, it's so much money to be putting into a bench player who's barely playing minutes, or at worst the reserve grader. It's the same case with I know Sullivan's been playing a bit, but it's just a lot of wasted money that could be best spent elsewhere.
And not only a bench player that at times this season hasn't got onto the field. So I can understand moving him. It is a bit strange, as Jordan said, with the fact that he doesn't have a contract next year. That I do tend to agree with Jordan that to me looks like that hopefully we have something coming in, because something coming in is probably needed. For me, Rachel, I think it probably increases the role Talon Da Silva is going to play over the back end of the season.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of Talon Da Silva and how he's been playing. I watched the reserve grade game yesterday and he wasn't part of the squad. So I don't know if he's still carrying a form of injury. I know his form hasn't been as particularly as good as it has been last year. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on there with Talon Da Silva at the moment. Yeah.
And we're in the middle of what looks like it's going to be a bit of a player clean out, Jordan. Who else would you have on that list?
Anyone in our back line, bar Buller and Olam, to be 100%. I was happy when we re-signed Staines, but I haven't seen enough. But I also don't know if that's completely his fault with the way we attack and the fact that we don't create a lot of space for our wingers and a lot of opportunity. But I feel we seriously lack some punch in the back line. It's why I'm very excited about Taruva, just watching the way he plays for Penrith and the getting over the advantage line and the yardage he makes out of our own end. It's something we definitely need. But we have literally, apart from Buller, which it doesn't happen often, we generally have no one in our squad that makes a break and we get excited going, they're going to go all the way.
Yeah, there really is no one who finishes off those plays. I think Eddie, I don't know if it was in our chat or whether it was on a pod the other week, he spoke about that we don't get any easy tries. So every try we have to work for. We don't have a situation where we put a guy away from 50 out and he just runs the full distance to score. You usually need that extra pass, and that tends to be coming unstuck a little bit this season, in my opinion.
That's right. We need some second rowers as well, because we're going to be now with Papali'i gone. We've got some kids in the lower grades, but we don't have anyone on that edge that, if we give them the ball, you sort of your toes curl and go, oh, is he going to break the line this time? Or it's more of a case of just going, we need to find someone with that punch out wide, which Samuela is doing currently, but we need to find some serious strike on the edges.
That's the one, Jordan, I was about to say, is Sam Fainu. For me, he has really stood out this year. When I watched him in the trials, I was a little bit worried. I thought he came across as a little bit of a hothead, and I was worried that he might give out too many penalties and make some silly mistakes. But the more he's played, he just looks so dangerous, and I would love to clone him and put another one of him on the other side. He just looks great.
100%. He for me, he's starting to look like he could become our Olakau'atu. He has just his work rate, his effort, and the want for contact. That's something I think Tigers have lacked for a long time, is that player who he wants to be hit and he wants to hit. And we have lacked that seriously for a long time. But that game against the Cowboys, just watching him fighting on every play, and when I agreed with Appy 100%, he is one of the most important players out there just for his effort on effort.
Yep,
and I think he's only going to improve, Rachel, as that combination with Lockie Galvin increases.
Yeah, I know we've spoken about it before when we've watched the games together. From the second or third round, when watching the boys play, I could already see that combination between Galvin and Fainu coming together. So I think, I'm really excited to see how that progresses, and he's definitely one that's going to be in that back row next year, but I agree with Jordan. I think we're short on back rowers coming into next year. And when I looked at the clean out list that I had, I've got Asu Kapoa being cleaned out. I've got Tumut being cleaned out from the squad. And there's a question mark on Bateman as well, whether he keeps his name in the squad as well.
Well, there's been rumours around Bateman and interest for Bateman in England already. So I think he is one who's definitely potential to be moved on. For me, I think I've said it on the pod before, I think Sullivan, Jordan, is probably the key contract that would be nice to get out of. And there were a few rumours over the weekend about Hull over in the Super League possibly being interested.
Yeah, I saw that as well, and it was actually mentioned in a commentary from a reporter of one of the Super League games I was watching that Hull FC have apparently earmarked him as their halfback option for 2025. But then the same thing like over here, they spoke about the price tag that is attached to him, and that's probably going to be the thing that we're going to have to work hardest on if we are going to offload him, is basically how much are we going to pitch in and for how long for, because £180,000 over there is considered a marquee player.
And I think that's going to be an issue with a lot of those contracts. I think Sullivan's contract's probably fairly similar, that working out what we're going to pitch in. I thought it was good business to get out of Papali's contract in what sounds like with Penrith picking up the full freight of it. But I don't know if we're going to be able to do that with everyone else, Nick.
Yeah, I agree. I sort of had a comment to make on Papali for a little bit later, but I'm just really sad to see him walk out, to be honest. I know that there were stories before he even walked in the door that he was trying to backflip and go back to Para. But I was really hoping that he'd hang around, especially, they're trying hard to rebuild. Benji's come out and, made that very public that he wants to turn his club around. It's just sad for someone of his stature to say, as quickly as he did, I'd like to explore my options and then quickly sign with another Premier club. So, yeah.
And I was excited to see that combination potentially with Luai. I think that would have been a combination that may have opened him up a little bit more, allowed him to maybe recapture some of that Parramatta form. So I'm a little bit disappointed in that as well. Now, next part of the show, Eddie always says, as host, you can do whatever you want. So he's always bringing in wild and new segments to the show. So I've come up with a new segment today, and I'm sure it's going to be better than Eddie's buy, swap, and sell that he's stolen from other programs over the years. I've come up with an original idea, so hopefully it's better than Eddie's. Probably won't be. So new segment we've got for today's show is the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're going to have a look at season 2024 so far. And each of you guys are going to tell me the part of the season that's been good, the part that's been bad, and the part that has just been ugly. So Rach, we'll start with you and we'll get your good for season 2024 so far.
Okay. So I put down 3 things that I think have been good so far this year.
Wow, you found 3.
I know. But the emergence of some of our young players coming through, I think Lockie Galvin's taken us all by surprise and how he's been performing and the maturity he's shown coming into first grade. We've spoken about Sam Whānau. I think he's held his discipline quite well. I was concerned about his discipline coming into the team, but I think he surprised us. And I think Pole's having a decent run too in first grade. No media leaks. I like that the board is wrapping up the leaks, that we're not hearing stories. I think that's a big plus on terms of the administration and management. And we appear to be a united team. Despite the losses, the team seems to be working together and they're united and they all can see the progress happening.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of those, Rachel. Nick, you're good for season 2024.
Yeah, it's a similar sort of conversation, I suppose. So Sam Whānau again, just on the emergence of him or his first, half dozen games, he's been fantastic. He just looks so dangerous. And like I said, I'd love to have another one of him on the other side of the field. Obviously Lockie Galvin, what a player for 18 years old. He's only a kid, but his first few games when no one knew anything about him, potency that he showed in the attack and the way he can read a defensive line and make a decision really quickly and put someone through a hole is really good to watch. And the rest of this season, as hard as it might be, hopefully it's not, but as hard as it's looking like it could be, if he can just keep building that confidence, I'd love to see what he can do next to the Y. So that's exciting. And the other point I had was Shane Richardson. So his original appointment as a stand-in CEO was massive. That's kind of got us on our feet again. And then the extension or the 4-year deal to retain him, especially when all the talk was he was going elsewhere, whether it was Rabbitohs or somewhere else, that's massive for our club. So they're my good points.
Yeah, I was surprised at the 4 years. I didn't think I thought we might get him for 2 years. Getting him for 4 years, I think that really sets us up for the future. So I'm very excited about that as well. Jordan, you're good for season 2024.
I know you'll 100% agree with me, Gary, but the part of my good is the future immortal and Alex Seafarth. I know you and I see eye to eye on Alex. No. In all seriousness, I agree with Rachel and Nick's points 100%. A few that I didn't even actually think of. Richardson is a huge one, but I know apart from the fact that we've got 8 straight losses, the good for me this year is that I'm not walking away feeling defeated. I'm the effort on effort. There is some serious signs. Like I know the results. We fans all want results, but the good for me is that I can still walk away from a game and I can actually pick out some points of it. Going, well, you know what? There was good effort there. There was they tried here. They're fighting here. We weren't packing it in at half time and literally watching a second half of football, just watching the clock, waiting for it to end.
Just on that thought, Jordan, I'm the same, right? I love sitting down watching the effort week after week. It's fantastic. I'm worried if that bubble's going to burst. Like last week, I think it was Eddie was saying before the game, he was telling everyone, don't go to the game, don't watch it because it's going to be an absolute shellacking. And I had the same thoughts. I was so worried, and probably scars from last year when we got smashed 74-0 up in Townsville. But I'm just worried the bubble's going to burst. And I just think the longer the season goes on and the more games they lose, I'm just scared that the effort is going to drop off.
I'm kind of the opposite I feel we're actually going to see some of the benefit towards the end. I don't think we're burnt out yet, and I don't think we are going to burn out. I feel as optimistic as probably a Tigers fan can feel. I actually feel we might see in a couple of weeks' time specifically. There are a few games there that I know that we can win. But I actually, one of my things later on is I actually think for prediction for the rest of the year, I think there'll be a point we will win 3 games in a row before the season is out.
I hope so. But we do tend to win games in a row, don't we?
We do.
That's a massive prediction, though. Massive prediction. Because my concern is, and I do agree with Nick a little bit, is if we don't get reward for that effort soon, that's when I start to worry about that's when the season starts to get a little bit hard, because I think that effort's been fantastic throughout the year, but we haven't really got the reward for all that effort and all that staying in a game and fighting to the end. We haven't got that reward yet, and if we don't get that soon, I do worry that that the year could get a little bit hard for this squad. Now, the bad. We'll move on. Nick can have a go first at the bad. So the bad of season 2024, Nick.
Well, I guess I mentioned it a few moments ago. It's just with Papali'i already deciding that he's had enough. So that for me was a huge kick in the guts as a fan. And we've seen, I think, a few things the last couple of weeks that Papali'i can do when he's switched on and probably in the right side or the right part of the field where he's got better opportunities. So he's looked dangerous the last couple of weeks, and that got me excited that, okay, I know good players, don't always shine in a struggling team, but he was starting to look a little bit more potent, and him asking for the exit door, there's a kick in the guts for a fan. So I'm hoping Richo can pull some magic strings and bring someone back equivalent, or at least someone that's going to add to the team, but I guess we'll just wait and see.
Jordan, the bad?
Our attack, the fact that we can march upfield, get into that red zone, yet I'm sure most agree none of us feel any confidence that we're actually going to cross that line. That for me is the real hard part, is that we get there and we seem to spend, like, I don't know how many games we've started where for the first 5-10 minutes, we've spent all that time in their end, and then the team goes to the other end of the field and scores. We seem to rely either too heavily on kicks, or for some reason we think that our forwards are the biggest players in the world and we use them as battering rams. It makes no sense to me. We only just in the last 2 weeks started introducing block plays this year. And I don't know, I teach my under 11s block plays and dummy runners. So it just, for me, it's our attack. We lack severely in our attack.
The concerning thing for me in regards to that, Jordan, is if I'd asked you this question last year, we probably would have got that same answer, that it was the attack and that red zone attack, which is what you're kind of referring to once again as well, that we get up the field, but once we get down their end, we can't finish that off. And all of last year, we were putting that on our halves, that our halves weren't strong enough. And we went and replaced our halves, and we're still having that trouble scoring points.
Yeah, I think that all comes down to also the lack of strike in the backs as well. Like, I don't know if the halves don't have confidence in the people out wide, or it's the way that the attacking structure is run. But for whatever reason, we don't seem to want to give our centre or our wingers the opportunity to create numbers or space.
And Rach, you're bad for season 2024.
I've put down the performance of some of our more experienced players. I think they've been inconsistent over the year, the likes of Clemmer and Steph and Staines, Naden, all these players that you expect to get a little bit more leadership from, actually not leading. And our discipline's been very poor at times. I think I was reading today that we've had 17 or 18 players charged by the match review committee this year, which is the worst in the NRL. And I think that's disappointing. And most of the charges have actually come from our more senior players.
Yeah, that discipline issue, and especially talking about leadership players, I think at times this year, Bateman in particular has just lost control in games. And I think that's an example throughout our team. And you have a look at it now, we've got players suspended left, right, and centre the last few weeks. And Caesar, one of our experienced players, has been out for a 4-week suspension, and we've really missed him during that time, Nick.
Do you think that's a lot to do with just frustration, that these guys are just getting, tired of not getting results, and, it's just unfortunately showing in a bit of a brain snap every now and then?
Yeah, it probably is, but it does dig that hole deeper, Rachel.
Yeah, I understand what Nick is saying, and I don't necessarily disagree, but I just think more senior players should be able to curb that frustration a little bit. I would probably expect the younger players to be showing their frustration a little bit more, and it seems to be that they're the ones that are holding the ground a little bit more than the senior players.
Agree.
And we'll move on to our final part of the good, the bad, and the ugly. The ugly. Now, I really don't want to hear anyone just say Gary. That is a no-no. So, Jordan, you're ugly for season 2024.
Rachel just touched on it. My ugly was the discipline.
I actually thought you were going to say Rachel then. I thought that's a bit harsh, mate.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, Rachel just touched on it. It's the discipline, the stupid penalties, the sin bins. I think we've been the most sin bin team this year as well. For me, Nick did touch on it, the frustration, some of it. We can't fault Appy's effort ever. But for me, the most telling point was when Naden got binned for that stupid hit on the ground, and the look on his face when the referee put his hands up. That, for me, that told me more than anything Appy could say. It was just stupid. And unfortunately, a lot of our discipline and the pressure that we create on ourselves has been the worst I've probably ever seen in such a short period. We're finding it hard enough to win games, yet alone we keep doing these kind of things just to dig the hole deeper.
I was a big Naden fan, but that hit, that put a line through him for me. From that 100%. Point on, I think he's done at our club.
Yeah, he should never see first grade again for that. That was one of the dumbest things. And then thankfully Saifidi proved us wrong on Saturday when he headbutt Marnie in front of 100 cameras. But that was one of the dumbest acts I've ever seen.
Marnie's a popular guy, though, isn't it? Like, everyone's after him. It's not.
I'd do it too.
Okay, Rach, you're ugly for 2024, and you're allowed to say Jordan.
Oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm not that. I actually put down our attack. So similar to Jordan's thoughts, as he said before, our attack in our 20 is non-existent. Our kicking game is non-existent. We just don't put any pressure on the defensive structures close to the line. We look better 30, 40, 50 metres out from the try line than we do in our 20 zone. So I think our attack's just disgusting. I don't have any other word to describe it. It's ineffective, it's poor, and it's not NRL standard.
And incredibly slow and clunky, I think, is the best way to describe it. I think we do things about half the pace of the rest of the competition, and I think that's telling when you have a look at how many tries we're scoring a game. The ugly for you, Nick.
Everyone's probably touched on so many different parts of the ugliness of the West Tigers, unfortunately. But like Rachel was just saying, we just show nothing in attack. We're so slow. I love Aiden Caesar, probably 4 or 5 years ago when he was playing for the Raiders. And he has looked like a steady head. The first few games that he played, or the first half of the season when he's been on the field. But to me, he just looks like he's in third gear. He just doesn't have any speed. And I know I made that joke about getting Luke Brooks back, and I was actually a Brooksy fan, so I wouldn't be against getting Brooksy back. But I just think we lack the speed in the middle, supporting Appy. Like Appy's darting left and right out of dummy half and doing his best to create opportunities. You know who's running up with Appy? It's Alex 12. And it's players like that who are doing their best, but they're not going to split the defence apart and make a half break and give someone a chance to get through a go. So I cannot wait for Luai next year to try and add some spark. But this is a real long story. But the only point I had down was just the reality that we're still losing games, and next year is still an unknown. So, like everyone, I'm just praying that we see something better next year.
So, a question on what you just said there. Aiden Caesar's back in a couple of weeks. Does he come back in the starting side for you?
He has to, because I don't want to see Bud next to Galvin, sadly.
So yeah, so we can't fix that speed. We just have to ride it out. I'm
Correct.
going to move on to a little bit of a season report card. I'm going to go through the list I gave you guys earlier, and we'll go through it one at a time. And I'll throw one at each of you, and just give me your reason, your report A to F, and your reasons for that. So I'm going to start with Jordan. Our attack, Jordan. We've touched on it a fair bit. But our attack, what's your A to F report card for that this season?
Absolute F, unfortunately. It is just, as I said, it's passenger, it's slow. Just on what Nick said about Appy, no one's supporting him. But the hardest part is we don't seem to have any forwards apart from Samuela that when they hit the line and they're on the ground that they're actually fighting to try and play the ball quickly. And we are not. I saw it not long ago. We actually have the slowest play the ball in the NRL.
I think that's probably contributes to the slow play we have everywhere else. Probably, I know at times Eddie and I, especially Eddie, have come across quite hard on Buller. But if we're not getting a fast play the ball, it doesn't allow him to do his job either.
Mm.
Okay. We'll move on to defence. Rach, your report for defence for this season.
I've given them a rating of a B to a C. I actually think our defensive effort's been the biggest improvement this year alone. I can see us moving up a little bit more in defence. The structures in defence are a lot better. So I think in terms of on-field performances, defence has probably been one of our biggest improvements this year.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think that gives me a lot of hope for the future that maybe this coaching structure can work. I think there needs to be some tweaks made to it, but I think John Morris has done a wonderful job with that defense with very similar players to what we had in the squad last season, and the improvements being quite large in that area. Nick, we'll go on to our forwards this year. Your A to F report card for them.
I've given the forwards a C. They're still rolling up the field. But at speed, not really. With impact, sometimes, you've got people like Dave Clemmer. He's got a lot of experience, but he has lost a little bit of an edge as he's getting on a little bit. Stefano's so inconsistent, as it's been said, before, and I've heard it on this pod before. I think we're expecting a huge season from Stefano, and it worries me with this clause that he's got, the get out clause. That's, this is the conspiracy theorist coming out, but is he plotting to try and get access to that exit door? I would hate him to walk out the door as well next year with Luai coming, because I think he could really help to drive us forward and make that extra impact to give our half some space next year. So I'm a little bit worried there, but overall, it's a C from me.
Jordan, our backs. I'm sure you've got a great report for these guys this season.
If it wasn't for the likes of Buller and Galvin, I probably would have given them an F as well. I'll give them a D based on those two that each week they're trying their hardest. Olam's added a little bit, but the rest, we've just got to put a broom through the lot of them, unfortunately. I was a big fan of Stafford Toa. I know he's been injured and haven't been able to see a lot of him, but the games we did see weren't great. As I mentioned about Staines, I don't know if it's our attacking structure. We don't get the best out of him, but it's just very... He doesn't win the fight. He doesn't win the fight in any tackle, and so far, I think I've seen him in open space twice, and he steps like, back yourself. The rest of it, yeah, it's just it's hard. Our backs need a massive overhaul, and some of the kids that are coming through are just too young to be thrown in there already.
So, a question without notice for you. Richo's currently in England. He's looking for players from over there. You watch a little bit of the English football, and I'm not going to ask you for names, but would you be looking at bringing backs over from England? For me, in the past, bringing over
Not
backs,
a chance.
Yeah, they haven't really made the grade, have they?
Not a chance. No. If you said I've got 3 hard-nosed forwards from Bradford for you, yeah, sure, 100%. I'll take them out the other week. But no, backs haven't worked since Ellery Hanley. We just cannot. We cannot afford another Oliver Gildart, Sam Tompkins situation like that. Look at Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall was probably actually the only player that I thought would come over here as a back and do well, and he couldn't even do well at the Roosters.
Yeah, no, I agree fully with that. I'll be solely looking for forwards if I'm bringing anyone back from over there. Now, guys, I promise I'm not doing this on purpose, and I'm not giving Rachel all the positive ones, all the easy grades to give out. The youth so far this season, Rachel.
I've given them a B. I just think, like we've said before, the young blokes have been the standout for me this year. I've really loved to watch the emergence of Galvin, Fainu, and I'm really been impressed with Pole. I like the way he runs it off the back fence, and I like his impact off the bench. I'll be interested to see if we do debut some more youngsters coming through from our reserve grade squad, although they're not performing well either. But I think the youth has probably been the highlight of the season.
Yeah, the reserve grade squad isn't doing great, but it is full of quite a lot of our younger players. Players we've actually moved up from our Jersey Flag squad, which is currently running second in the Jersey Flag competition. So there are some positives coming from down the lower ends as well, despite that New South Wales Cup side performing just as bad as the NRL side, and I think still running dead last. So the experienced players, Nick.
I gave him a D, and again, we've touched on it already. They're just not, in our opinion, right? They're not doing a great job leading the younger fellas around the field. So it's sad and it's worrying. You need these guys to step up and show the young fellas around the park and how to play the game for 80 minutes. Where to kick to the corners, how to chase hard. But it does seem to be the younger fellas that are stepping up and doing all that hard work, which is a shame. So that's my mark.
Our coaching staff, Jordan.
I'd give them a B, only for their first year, first time together. I think John Morris is doing a fantastic job. I know Robbie's in charge of our attack, which kind of confuses me about the edges because he was one who used to like to try to shift it to attack the edges. But I'd give them a B just purely based on inexperience in a sense. Like I think a lot of us can see what they're trying to do, and it's just not coming out in full force. So I'm going to give them a little bit more time. But if you ask me the same question next year in the same position, it'll definitely be a lot lower.
Now, you have given them a B, but at this point, would you be looking to make any changes for next year?
Our attacking coach, I
Yeah,
think, would have to be if someone who becomes available, or is someone we can even entice to come over that has a good record as an attacking coach. I don't think we should try to set ourselves up for a trap of another boys' club in the coaching ranks when we used to have it in the locker room.
I tend to agree with that. I think we are lacking that experienced coach. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a former head coach, but someone who has a little bit more experience, even as an assistant coach. I think that's probably one thing we are lacking in that coaching setup, and one thing I'd like to see us improve for next season. I don't think there's anything you can do for this season, but for next season, definitely, I think that's an area we need to have a look at. And our last one, Rachel, is off the field. So a report card for how we're going off the field.
I've given another B out for off the field, possibly heading towards an A. I'm really impressed with the way Richo speaks. I think even though we're not necessarily going to like all the decisions that he's going to make the decisions that are best for the team moving forward. I know we've touched on no leaks from the club, but I think that's a huge factor in how we're progressing off the field. We don't have Buzz and all those people getting information from club members anymore, or club the CEOs, etc. anymore. So I think, I'll give them a B. I'm really impressed with how we're performing off the field.
Now that yes, Nick?
I was just going to say on Buzz, I don't know if you've been keeping an eye on X the last couple of days, but he's definitely doing his best to stir the pot with some, with Benji in Fiji and, all those sort of headlines he's putting out. So it's just so frustrating to see. They just keep picking on the Tigers.
I just want to know what Richo did to him.
It must mean something. What about the tweet he put up last week about missing his lunches with Pascoe? Like, Toddy's even got a rated a mention in it. It's all a little desperate.
It's
Very
terrible.
desperate.
It's terrible. But I want to know if Richo ran over his dog or what, because any moment there's a chance to lay the boot into him, he certainly finds it. Like, he ran over a leaf the other day, called Greenpeace. I don't know what he wants more out of him, seriously.
To be honest, I don't think I've ever seen a more agenda-filled journalist, not just in rugby league, anywhere. He had issues with Tim Sheens while he was here in the second stint as well. Once he sets his sight on you, you're in trouble.
100%. He's too senile to see that everyone else can actually see how agenda-driven it is.
So now I have my report card for you guys so far. So based off your report cards, we've got Rach, who was giving out A's and B's everywhere. I think she was that nice teacher. And Jordan, I have to tell you, mate, you're definitely that hard-nosed teacher that everyone starts crying when they find out they're in your class, mate.
Sounds perfect to me.
Okay. Couple of little things to finish it off. A couple of highlights from the year. And Nick, your season highlight so far in 2024. Hopefully it gets eclipsed in the second half of the season. But so far, what is your highlight?
I hope so too. Easter Monday at Para when we beat the Eels, that was fantastic. So I've got three boys. My youngest is 8, so I took him to probably second ever game. And he hasn't been through probably a good year and a half, but he got to see a win. And he was going to the game extremely worried we were going to lose, because all my boys know is losing. And it's a huge reason why none of them want to come to games with me, which is very disappointing. But just the way we fought back and held the lead and finished off the game was huge. And I had him up on my shoulders at the end of the game. We were high-fiving strangers, and the experience was unreal. And he went to school the next day with a huge smile on his face, which made my day and week. So that was my highlight.
And sadly doesn't happen too often for West Tigers fans.
Doesn't happen too often, no.
Rach, your highlight for the season so far?
The win over the Sharkies at Leichhardt. A packed Leichhardt, winning the way we did. To me, nothing beats a packed Leichhardt and being on that hill and watching the boys play as well as they did that day.
Yeah, both those games were fantastic. We've left poor Jordan to last. We've won 2 games all season. So, Jordan, your highlight for season 24 so far.
Well, once again, Rachel's stolen one of my points. Leichhardt was definitely a good night, but I'll go on a completely different one from the wins. Getting a signing basically over the line and done before anyone knew about it with Taruva. I think for me, that just showed a lot of how the front office and negotiations with players and managers and everything had changed, because within 24 hours of the media getting a sniff, we confirmed it. And for me, that was a good highlight, because hopefully that's just more of signs of things to come, that we as members, especially that they're focusing now on actually getting news to members first. We get an email notification comes up, and when that member exclusive comes up, you sort of kind of now be excited going, oh, what could this be?
For me, that was a real surreal one, because I went out to the game at Bathurst. We caught the bus out there, and I'm sitting there watching Taruva play that day, and knowing he was off contract, and St. George were favourites to sign him, and Appy's his cousin. And I'm sitting there all through that game thinking, why aren't we chasing this guy? Why aren't we in this race? And lo and behold, a couple of days later, they announced this signing. So that was, they kept that really quiet.
They did.
Okay, Nick, your best player, and I can hazard a guess from what you've said already tonight, your best player for season 2024 so far.
Well, apart from Alex Seyfarth, who's also the gun, he's partner in the back row. Yeah, I don't mind Big Red. He tries so hard, and he's actually he's a like.
I think you answered this question with the answer for the next one.
Probably did. No, I love Sam Fanu. So Sam Fanu, from what he's shown, he's tall, he's athletic, he's powerful, he's fast, he's got footwork, and he can ball play. So for me, he can do everything. And, I've got a bit of a man crush on Sam Fanu. Might be a bit old for him, but he's just seriously, like, for me, the sky's the limit for him. I'm assuming he's eligible to play Origin at some point in his career, but I'd earmark him as a future Blue, hopefully. I think he's that good.
Yeah, I think he's been fantastic, and is fast racing up my list of favourite players as well. And a little surprising, I didn't see him actually having this much impact this early. The best player for you, Jordan, I'll give you a chance to steal one from Rachel. So let's see if you can.
Well, it's kind of hard because Nick just stole mine. I'm
sending the first Valentine's card, Jordan.
Mate, I feel like the old Tiger's bored. All my information's been leaked and it's getting out before I get a chance to do it. Look, I can't go past Lockie Galvin in other senses as well, for a kid that we probably didn't hear as much about as others. I was surprised. I must admit, I was 100% surprised when he actually cracked the team so early. But he doesn't look rattled. He doesn't look phased. He's been hit. He's been pushed down, and the kid just seems to get up and want to go again. So I think for me, he only has the potential to go a long, long way in his NRL career, and just hopefully it's in our colours.
Yeah, he's someone, I know we've got him signed for a couple of years, but I'll be looking at getting that extension done as soon as possible, because I'm sure he's on a lower end contract anyway. And when you have a guy like him who could be a generational player for your club for the next 5 to 10 years, then you need to keep them happy, and you keep them happy by paying them what they deserve to be paid, not by keeping them on what is a good deal for the club. So hopefully that's something we start to look at least by the end of this season.
Money can only go so far, Gary. They've got to start winning games, because you can give him 1.5, but in 3 or 4 years' time, if we've won 2 games per season in the next 5 years, he's gonna walk.
Yeah, and I think that you just got to look at the Tedesco, Moses, Brooks Wood situation we had back in the mid 2010s. We don't want a repeat of that.
Nope.
Rach, your best player for season 2024.
Well, when I looked at this question earlier, Galvin passed my mind, and so did Sam Fanu. So those ideas have been taken already. So I'll have to say Appy. I just think Appy is a heart and soul of the team. I don't know where we would be without him. He may not always play a 10 out of 10 game, but he's always trying. He's always there. He's trying to lead the team around the park. And he's a perfect bloke for the young guys to look up to in terms of what it means, what it takes to be an NRL footballer.
And if Appy's guilty of anything, it's actually trying too hard at times. I'd like to see him get a little bit of rest during games. I think we'd get a better performance from him. But it's hard to argue. He's in our top couple of players every single week, and anytime he's not, it's usually because he's ran himself to a standstill, trying to be that best player. Okay, Jordan, you've complained about everyone stealing your ideas. You can go first on the next one. The biggest disappointment for you so far in 2024?
Obviously, the results and where we sit on the ladder is up there. But the biggest disappointment for me on a lot of facts is that we've been able to sell out so many home grounds this year, surprisingly, especially at Campbelltown, and we just cannot get it over the line, which just fuels the whole debate about players not wanting to play there, not showing up there, the effort there. I think we've lost 15 in a row or 14 in a row there at Campbelltown. That for me is the biggest disappointment. Like, I know we've been nomads, and I know we're going to hear about our stadium strategy in the next couple of weeks, but the fact that we just do not have a fortress or a home. I know Leichhardt is it from time to time, and I love Leichhardt more than any other stadium. But yeah, just the continuation that we sell out grounds and we don't seem to show up in a sense.
Nick, your biggest disappointment for season 2024?
Probably Bud, to be honest. Probably like all of us. I remember, was it his debut against us last year for the Dragons when he came off the bench and scored 2 tries? I don't know if it was his first game, but he stepped inside, I think it was Papali'i both times. And I thought, geez, how good is this kid? Like, he'd been on for 15 minutes, scored 2 tries, and was carving us up. And that was probably one of the few times I watched him last season. And when we signed him, I thought, okay, well, this is fantastic. He's a really sharp-looking young half. What else can he do? He's a half. But this year, that's all I've seen him do. He's booted the ball downfield a few times straight to fullback, but I haven't seen a great deal apart from that step, it's worried me a little bit, and it's disappointing. The money that we've invested into him, I know that there's talk that he's going to be offered elsewhere, but just sad. I was expecting more.
Yeah, his ability to, the thing that had me a little bit excited was that ability to open up the defense inside that red zone, because we're so poor at that last year. And that has been his strength for us this year, but even that hasn't been shown enough. I think we've seen it 2, maybe 3 times where he's managed to open up that defensive line. I can't disagree with that. As a player, that is my biggest disappointment for this year. I think I was hoping for a lot more than what we've actually got from him so far.
Okay.
Rach.
I know we've touched on this before, but I've said that the biggest disappointment is simply our discipline. We're just not going to be an NRL standard team while we're continuing to make the errors, giving away the penalties that we are. That really needs to be fixed, and we need to start fixing it now. We've spoken about Naden, but some of the penalties we're giving away are just not first grade standard. You wouldn't see those mistakes in under 10s football. So I think discipline is probably, my biggest disappointment of the year.
Okay, we're going to move on a little bit now onto the future direction of our club. Shane Richardson, about a month ago, released our strategic plan for where the club's going over the next couple of years. What was your opinion on that strategic direction and the direction our club is going, Nick?
I'm very happy with everything Richard said. Even the discussions about possibly moving away from Leichhardt. As much as I love Leichhardt too, I'm just putting all my faith in Richo. He's a very keen operator, very smart man, and I'm sure that any decision he makes is going to be in our best interest. So I'm very happy that he's leading us through the next 4 years, and I just am praying that brings results because we just need results.
And I think that's the big thing with Richardson, is I think there's going to be decisions made that all of us are going to disagree with at some point in time. But I don't think there's going to be any fear of that from him. I don't think he's going to not make a decision because it's going to upset people. And I think that's what a strong leader does. And it's probably what we've lacked in the past, Nick.
Completely agree, Gary. He's the man to take us forward. He's dug Penrith out of a hole, he's dug South out of a hole, and now Tigers turn, and he's got 100% success rate of wherever he's gone. So, I'm putting all our faith in Richo to do the same for us, because I'm, as you are, as everyone is, I'm just tired of being at the bottom, and I'm actually at the point now where my mates are taking pity on me. They no longer tease the Tigers, well, they do, but not as much as they did. We're basically the team that people start to feel sorry for, which is, not a great feeling.
Jordan, your thoughts on where our club is heading over the next couple of years?
6 months ago, or a little bit longer, I wouldn't have been sitting with you again at in Bay 8 at Leichhardt, mate. Last season was tough. Last season for me, especially, just from a mental point of view and my love of the game and my love of the club, I was ready just to not hand over my money anymore for the first time in a long time. And then you stepped in with the petition and everything else that changed and everything else that happened, and it revived. And you know what? The funny thing is, even though with the results, I still want us to do well this year, but I do have one eye on 2025. We're going to have a set stadium plan for a few years. We got Luai coming, we got Taruva coming. Benji's system's going to be in place for a little bit longer. We've got players being cleared out. We got other players that are going to come in. They're going to have to come in. There will, as we know in this great game, there will be players that become available and that will move around. Even the minor comment Richo made a few weeks ago about the changes to membership packs and the way they're done and the value for money and stuff like that. I really feel in 12, 18 months' time, maybe even leading to the start of the 2026 season, we are going to be having a lot more different conversations, and they're going to be done with a smile. I really feel this club is actually starting to head in a way that is going to be the only way to create substantial change and success, because there's no excuses now. Everything has changed. Everything has literally been blown up, started again, and there's only one direction from here, and that's up.
For me, I think the key point you said there, and I'm going to elaborate on it a little bit, is I think the success of what we're putting in place now will be seen when we can talk about footy and we can talk about our club in the now, not looking with that one eye to the future. I think that's when we're going to be a club that we can really be proud of, and a club that's probably has its right to be part of the NRL.
Yep. Yeah, 100% agree.
Rach, your thoughts around the direction of our club?
Well, I think you guys have really said it all. I agree 100% with everything you guys have said. I think just looking forward, I think I actually have hope. I think that's one, when I look at this season and I look at what Richo's putting in place, I finally have hope that we can perform, that we can be an NRL standard team. And for many years, we haven't been able to say that. So I finally have hope that we are moving in that right direction and that we will see positive results both on and off the field in the coming years.
Now, last thing to finish up the pod tonight, it's turned into quite a long one. Probably you guys have done a better job than Eddie usually does. Like we're punched out over an hour here. Nick, one prediction. I'm going to limit you all to one because we are starting to run a little bit short on time. One prediction for the rest of the 2024 season.
Probably won't be very happy prediction, but if we can win another 2 games, I'd be reasonably content. I just again can't see where we're going to put points over the try line. So I just struggle to see us beating many teams, and we have to get back to as close as full strength as possible. And we're so decimated. It's just so hard to see us getting a win.
To put you on the spot, Nick, do we avoid the spoon?
No, I backed us for the spoon before the season started, sadly, but I'm a realist, so I would expect we'd win 3 straight, sadly.
Rach, your prediction for the rest of the season 2024?
Oh, I probably think about 2 or 3 more wins. I'm going to say that we avoid the wooden spoon only because I'd love to see South win it.
Wouldn't we all? I think the whole NRL, the pride of the league, can have the wooden spoon. I think that it fits. And Jordan, your prediction for season 2024?
I revealed it earlier, and I'm going to stick by it. We will win 3 straight before the season is out.
I want to thank you guys for giving up your time tonight to come and join us and talk West Tigers. You guys have done a wonderful job. I think there'll be some regular podcast members who are very worried about their seats on the podcast. I don't think either of our hosts will be too worried about me stealing the hosting job. But you guys, I think Steve and Declan especially should be incredibly worried about their spot on the pod. I do have to say an apology to Eddie. He is in the waiting room. We were trying to get him onto the podcast tonight, but once again, we ran out of time to get him on. So he can come back on Wednesday night and preview the games for the weekend. Once again, guys, thank you for coming on. Thank you for everyone for listening. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks, guys.